Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. Derek here today, along with Christopher Brenning, author of the Hellborn King saga, most recently The Queen of Scorn, which I read late 2025. It was the book I was probably looking forward most to reading last year, and it was a lot of fun. So I was glad I was able to get my hands on it and read it, and now I get to talk to you again. So how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think you were one of the first couple authors I interviewed ever. Um, so I was probably pretty nervous then. Now not so much. I'm a little more calm about it, I guess. So
Yeah, a little more seasoned now.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
I realize we're all just people, right? And
that's
what
right.
author
Yeah.
doesn't like to talk about their book? So well, I guess first thing, start things off here. I'm curious your experience writing Queen of Scorn. How is that different compared to like the first two books or even the novellas? Any different challenges that you faced? Any other like different roadblocks you had? Anything like that?
It was mostly just life challenges. The first three books I wrote back to back without stopping, and then Queen of Scorn, took 2.5 years to write, just because a lot of life changes, work getting in the way, and plus I really wanted to take my time with it and really hone my craft because I knew I could do better, and I didn't want to just keep pumping books out and then afterwards kind of feel like, man, it's just not quite what I want it to be. So I really took my time with this one, and I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, it turned out really well. The time, I guess, I'm sure you probably felt that pressure more so than like on the reader's end of things, but it was worth the wait. And your writing, I always thought was really good, but it certainly felt like it took a big leap in this book. And uh, just as like a person who enjoys reading, like it's a weird thing to me, like how you see that progression. Um, like I guess you have that learning curve that you're going through, but it's almost like, well, where did this come from? Type of deal.
Yeah.
So it's not so much a question, but just kind of a comment. So
Yeah, I took a lot of constructive feedback from friends. My buddy Dan really helped me out a lot as far as like the nuts and bolts, like making every sentence count, making every sentence have something that stimulates something in your mind, so you can literally see the story as you're reading it. So I really wanted to take my time and, like I said, make every sentence count.
cool. Well, this question is maybe a little bit of a follow up to that, and um, I just jotted questions down kind of as they came to me, so they're not really in any specific order. So I may just kind of jump around a little bit. And this question, I don't want you to feel like it's a shot at you by any means at all. Like that's not the case. But like we've talked to Steven Erickson a couple times, and like he's told us like with writing, like you should read everything you can, like whatever it is. Um, even if it's not something you would normally read, right? And I know you're
Mhm.
not a reader; you kind of buck that trend, um,
Very
and
much
it
so.
totally works. So I'm just kind of curious: is that like, are you just not interested in reading other stuff? Is it just like you're busy with your day job and everything else, writing your own books, where you just like don't have that time to commit, or maybe somewhere in between, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of just being busy, just with life, and then trying to keep up with writing. And then I don't have the attention span for reading. I mean, I've tried. I have a whole stack of books in my living room that I've never really gotten through. And every time I try, I can read a few pages, but then just mentally my mind starts checking out. So I'm much more of a visual media kind of person, which is why, like, the way I write my books, I almost write them so like you're almost reading a movie, like you're almost having like a movie play out in your head. So
It does seem that way. Have you ever thought about like getting into like screenplay writing or anything like that?
I have. I actually have thought about that, but that's a whole other art form. I'd have to do a lot of homework before I start doing that.
Sure. That one that just kind of came to my head, so I was just curious.
Mhm.
But your writing is very like cinematic feeling. Like it's big and it's I mean very clear to what you're thinking at that time. I mean I could
Mhm.
visualize it all very well. Um, I guess to follow up then, so you're not a reader, but when did you decide you wanted to be a writer? And like you said, you had that 2.5 years for this book. Um, that criticism from your friends, but how have you learned to write so well, despite I guess maybe not despite, but just since you're not reading, maybe being inspired by the writing medium, and I guess like you said, maybe it's just more of the visual stuff that you have. But how does that translate to your writing? Do you think?
I mean, I started doing writing as a hobby back in 2003, and I mean, my writing was okay, but it was like browser-based, free-form RPG type of stuff. And so, just over time, just interacting with that community, my writing skills improved and improved. And I always kind of had it in the back of my head that I wanted to write a book one day. And I've said this many times. What really kind of pushed me over the edge into writing a book was Game of Thrones season 8, because I was so dissatisfied with how it turned out. So I was like, well, you know what? Now that Game of Thrones is done, and I didn't know at the time that they were going to be doing all these spin-off shows or whatever. I was like, maybe I'll throw my hat in the ring and see what I can come up with. And then the rest is history.
I know I've seen you online, like, hey, George, I could finish your season. I'd give it a go. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It'll never
And I
happen,
know,
but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
right? Well, and you got to give him a copy of one of your books, right?
yeah, he has a personalized copy of the Hellborn King, and I have a personalized copy of one of his books.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Any idea if he's picked it up at all and read it?
I have no idea, but if he's at least held it in his hands, then I feel accomplished enough just with that.
Yeah, that's got to be such a cool feeling to think like that guy held your book in his hands, and hopefully he
Yeah.
looked at that cover and was like, okay, I kind of got to check this out and see what it's about. So that'd
Yeah,
be pretty
maybe one
cool.
day. I mean, he's a really busy guy. He's got way too many irons in the fire, and he's got to finish his own books. So, you know,
Right? Yeah, I hope it happens. I feel like we could. I'm hopeful we'll get the next one. Um, the Wind's a winner, but I don't know if we'll get a Dream
mhm,
of Spring or not. Hopeful, but
yeah,
we'll see.
you never know. Maybe he'll surprise everybody.
Yeah. Have you watched the spin-offs then? House of the Dragon? Did you watch Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
I watched the first season of House of the Dragon, and I have not watched. I have not watched the new one. I hear really good things about it though, so I'm pretty excited to check that out.
It's the only one where I haven't read the source material for it, but
Mm,
I loved it. It's probably my favorite one that I've seen so far. Like my favorite part of the world. It's seems really well done. It reminds me a lot of A Knight's Tale in some ways,
okay,
um,
cool.
but it still can be pretty brutal at times. But it's just like a different pace of life. I mean, like you got like a regular dude basically. You're not following so much these royals so much. It's just a
Hmm.
dude trying to get through life. It was a lot of fun. It was really good. I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out eventually.
As time allows. So what what I don't remember everything I asked you the first time we talked, so some of these may be repeats in a sense, but
Yeah, that's fine.
um, like your writing process. So you also don't use an editor, correct?
Correct.
So you use, I guess I don't know what the term would be. You self edit
Yeah,
or
I
just do it
self edit.
yourself.
I do use Grammarly just to check if I'm writing in passive voice or if I made some sort of grammatical mistake. So I do use that as an editing tool, but I do all my own editing.
So how do you, and again, like term wise and stuff, but how do you remain like objective to your writing? Like if you're getting something down on the page and it isn't like working, how do you
Mhm.
go through that process of like cutting it out or reworking it? Do you ever find like maybe you're too attached? I feel like that would be hard if you don't have another set of eyes on it, but maybe it's not.
I mean, I use beta readers, so I do take feedback from them.
Okay.
I have a couple of people that'll read through it, and if something jumps out to them, where just like, man, this just isn't working, or this didn't make sense, or whatever, then yeah, definitely, I go back in and make adjustments as needed. But as far as being able to objectively edit my work, it's just I don't know, maybe it's just an unusual skill I have. I can look at something and, after I've set it aside for a little bit and I kind of approach it with fresh eyes, if I read it, I'm just like, this just isn't flowing the way I want to. I'm more than willing to change things up. I mean, are there certain scenes or something that I feel strongly about? Like if a beta reader is like, I don't know about this, but I feel strongly about it. Well, I'll keep it in there. But I'm more than willing to just tear through whatever I've written and just cut the fat out of it and just make it the best it can be.
So is that like you get a few chapters done, and then however long that takes, you go back, a couple weeks later, reread them,
Mhm.
and just go through it that way?
Yeah, I'll do that, and then once I actually start assembling them into acts, so first, second, third act, I'll put all the chapters together and I'll do a full read through of that act. And if something's really not flowing right, I'll go back in and clean it up and make it a lot more polished.
Okay. So do you then, are you not necessarily writing in order how the book is laid out in the end, or is it kind of jumping around?
No, I never write in order. I never write in order. I'm trying to be a little bit more disciplined on this new book that I'm working on, and try to just keep it contained within acts. But in the past, I'll be writing something in act one, and then I'll jump to something like right towards the end because I get the idea in my head and I'd rather just get it out. And of course I'll end up changing, something down the road, but at least getting the idea, on the screen so that I don't lose it. So yeah, I mean, I skip around all the time. I mean, I'm surprised that I can keep the story as coherent as it is while skipping around. I do.
Sure. Just like me trying to imagine that, I feel like there's a lot of potential where that could get really frustrating if you're trying to
Yeah.
figure out, like, okay, I got these chapters now, how do I want to order it, how do I make it make sense, or something like that. I feel like I would get so frustrated with that. Just the type of person I am, I feel like I would need to be like just right down the line going through it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
clearly,
there is a method to my madness.
hey, it works. So that's the big thing. What is it that keeps inspiring you to create this world that you have, to keep going deeper into it?
Uh, that's a good question. I just feel like I have this story in me. Like this is a story that I have to tell. For me, and most importantly for the fans, for everybody that's been following the series. I mean, there are certain people that have DM'd me on X, and they're just like, "Man, your writing is incredible. You're one of my favorite authors." And so I do it for them just as much as I do it for myself.
I don't remember how you popped up on my Twitter timeline the first time, but I'm pretty sure I told you before. I saw that cover. I'm like, okay, I gotta like check this out, and been hooked since. So it's been a lot of fun to be on that ride.
Oh yeah, my covers, I spare no expense. J.K. Elba Design does a fantastic job. Uh, my covers are my most important piece of marketing, really.
I mean, people say not to judge a book by its cover, but ultimately people do, and I mean, you
Hmm.
certainly draw attention, and they are badass for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
How is so like self-published, doing this yourself? How has that journey been? How much has that changed from book one to book three? Is it getting any easier? Still, I mean, I'm sure it's a challenge, but I mean, you kind of know what you're doing after the first one.
Hmm.
I imagine that helps some, but different different challenges there going forward as you progressed.
I mean, the biggest challenge is just keeping up with the marketing. I mean, I've kind of dropped off the face of the earth. My books really aren't talked about much in the indie scene anymore, and that's my fault. Life's just been getting in the way too much, and so I haven't been able to consistently keep myself out there. But as far as like the technical nuts and bolts of self-publishing, yeah, I mean, it does get easier with each book, and um, uh, I've learned not to make certain mistakes along the publishing process. So in terms of that, physically getting it up on Amazon and all that stuff, that's easy. But being able to do the books justice and keep marketing and keep putting myself out there, that's been the most difficult part by far.
I imagine. I mean, you're just kind of a one man show for all of this, so it's
Yep.
keeping all those balls in the air. I'm sure is tough,
Oh yeah,
and
it is. It is not easy.
I could see. I mean, like the marketing yourself side of things would probably be the easiest one to drop, so to speak, right? I mean, if you're
Mhm.
just busy with other stuff, but I,
Right.
I don't have a super huge audience, but I'd like to think, hopefully we can get the word out there for your books and people check them out. So try to help
Yeah,
as
yeah. I
much as
mean,
I can.
you've been great. Just spreading the word. Getting the series out there and everything. So yeah, I definitely really appreciate it.
For sure. What I'm curious how things have like. You've recently made a decision to add another book into the series, a sixth book, correct?
Yeah, although I was actually thinking about that this morning. I waffle back and forth because some people that have read the Queen of Scorn, and this is no criticism of them. Everybody's entitled to their own feelings on the books, but some have said that Queen of Scorn kind of suffers from middle book syndrome, and that's not exactly what I want to hear, but it's kind of put me in a spot where it's like, okay, I know the story has grown to the point now where to properly do every character's arc justice, I really should add a third book. Otherwise, I'm just going to be rushing through things, skipping around, character. Like I want to avoid characters teleporting and plot conveniences and all that stuff. So I really should add another book, but then I get that little voice in the back of my head that says, "Well, is the next one still going to have middle book syndrome too?" And then I kind of start worrying about that. But um, I really think I should do three more. Whether or not I do, who knows? And honestly, I would only do two, but there are constraints within Amazon's self-publishing platform. I can only publish so many pages for a paperback. I think it's I'm probably off on this, but it's like 750 or 720, something like that. And then for hardcovers, it's 550. So I have to work within those constraints. I could publish solely through Ingram Spark. They allow you to do like 1,000 words for a paperback, or I'm sorry, 1,000 pages for paperback and like 700 something for a hardcover. But going through Ingram, I have a little bit less control, because on Amazon I can discount the books, I can put them up for free, blah blah blah. I get better
Sure.
royalties through Amazon, so I kind of just want to stick with that instead of just going solely through Ingram. So it kind of looks like I'm staring down three more books.
I was just looking at Queen of Scorn because that was pretty close to that 700 page
Yep.
limit then. So,
Yeah, my
uh,
formatter struggled to get it into 550 for the hardcover.
oh really?
Oh yeah, yeah. She pulled it off though.
Nice. Yeah, I guess I would not be one that would be against more books. And my buddy Jan in Norway, he was reading this. He was reading Queen of Scorn approximately the same time I was, and he thought this was the last book. So he's like getting to the end. He's like, "How is he going to wrap this all up in like another 150 pages or what he had left?" So
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, no, there's more. There's more coming, Jan." So
There's a lot more. Yes.
um, so this was a question from Andres, but he was curious about a moment in your writing where you had to quote kill your darlings, be it a scene or maybe some dialogue. If you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. Especially now as I'm working on the new book, there will be a death that I am reluctant to write, but for it's just the logical progression of the story, and I don't want there to be any kind of plot armor for characters. I've never done that in the series. If somebody finds themselves in an impossible situation, they're not getting out of it. So that that can be a little tough, to take a character and you know axe them. But if it's necessary for the story, then that's what the story commands. I'm just here telling it. The story is kind of at a certain point, the story starts to almost write itself.
I imagine it's hard when you've had these characters in your head for probably years, and I'm sure you like ultimately you know where they're going, and as you're
Mhm.
writing, you're probably kind of exploring that, and things come up. But you know, to just finally put those words on the page for an ending for them, I imagine could be difficult at times.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Are we talking spoilers with this or no?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this I guess I should have mentioned that at the beginning. There could probably be spoilers in here for sure.
Okay, well, if you're listening to this and you don't want spoilers, now's the time to tune out. So, but yeah, so killing off Trace. Yeah, granted, he wasn't really a major character, but he was part of the royal family. He's a character that's been in the series, for a couple of books now. Um, that I was a little reluctant to do that. I thought, well, maybe I should wait. There could be a lot more to his story. Um, and in the next book, you're going to find out more about his dealings and everything. So by no means is his influence gone, but that was not an easy scene to write. I didn't enjoy doing that, but it was necessary.
I mean, everybody's got to have an ending at some point. So
Hmm.
uh, I think this may be a good transition. Then, did you have a favorite moment that you wrote in Queen of Scorn?
Oh, I had a couple. So when Damien and Sylvia are climbing the mountain,
Yep.
that was actually inspired by a trip to Greece that I took with my best friend, and we climbed Acrocorinth, which is one of the oldest fortresses in Europe, and that experience helped me craft that chapter. Another thing I really enjoyed was the final battle at the end with the bone colossus, and like the book like really leaning into like full fantasy now. That was a blast. I had so much fun writing that. So I would say those two are probably right up there for me.
Yeah, that it was fun to see. Well, one of the things I've liked about the series is that there hasn't always been a ton of like magic to it, but
Hmm.
I did enjoy that we get a reveal of some fantastic elements in this book, and I like that as well. I would never have been against like, oh, if there's magic here, but it seems pretty like real world based, I guess.
Yeah,
But we've got
and a lot,
little hints of things.
and a lot of that was intentional. Like I wanted to ground the first couple books in the series like squarely in reality, so that when the fantasy does come in, it hits you that much harder because it's
Yeah,
up until Queen of Scorn. I mean, there were some fantastical elements, but it was mostly paranormal, superstition, stuff like that. It wasn't like full blown fantasy or full blown like magic or whatever. But now, as the series is progressing, more of that's coming up into the forefront.
sure. Yeah, that'll be. I'll be excited to see how that evolves. What we're gonna get.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess kind of another nice segue then. How is book four progressing? How's that been for you? Any more novellas planned, or just the two that you already have out on that side of things?
Um, Not quite sure about novellas, but as far as the new book goes, I got about 4.5 chapters done. I'm at about 12,000 words. So after I had got done moving for the second time in 2 months, I just for whatever reason I had this intense creative burst, and so I was just writing like an absolute madman. But it's slowed the past couple of weeks. I really haven't written a whole lot, but that's just because I need a mental break to kind of recharge. But it's going well. I'm very pleased with what I've written so far, and I think everybody's going to enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, moving twice in 2 months would be quite the undertaking. So
Oh yeah.
hopefully that's done for a while now.
Yeah, it will be.
Um, I'm pretty sure I asked you this before too, but like, what is your writing process like? So I remember you get like some mood lighting going. I think you get a drink, but what is it that really gets you in that headspace to write? Is there like a time typically where you get your ideas, or is this just something like you're constantly thinking about? And kind of like you said before, like I got an idea, I got to get it on the page now before I lose it.
Mhm. I prefer to do my writing in the evening, when it's dark outside. I get all my mood lighting going, mix up a cocktail, get, some incense burning, some music playing, just really, really set the mood for whichever character I'm working on. So when I write, I try to make it like a full sensory experience for me to really, really get into that like kind of cinematic mode, where the creative juices are just flowing. So I always try to write at night. I really don't write during the day. It's just kind of not my thing. I'm more of a night owl.
Okay. So you just kind of hold on to those ideas till the evening then.
Yeah, I mean, I may pull out my phone and just jot down like a quick one sentence kind of summary of what I'm thinking if an idea pops into my head.
Sure. Yeah. It's I would imagine that'd be frustrating. You're like, oh, I'll remember this, and then you don't later in the day
Yeah.
type deal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got. I mean, now that I'm working on my fourth book now, or let's see, fifth book now. Yeah. So it's I've gotten to the point now where I have trained myself to not forget good ideas. I just immediately pull out the phone and just jot it down and just save it for later.
Yeah. Then I guess you for sure have it. So that's pretty
Mhm.
big. Um, how have you liked Norway? You've gone there a few times. It sounds like you probably had the idea for the story before you went over there, or is that not necessarily the case?
Yeah, yeah. I've only been going to Norway the past 2 years. I'm going again this year. It's the whole trip with my best friend. It's based around this 4 day outdoor music festival. It's like neo folk, Viking music, and like Scandinavian black metal. So it's a very interesting combination of music and just the atmosphere at the festival. It's people in full Viking attire. It's uh, the festival is right on a fjord. There's Viking burial mounds there. It's really awesome. And I've made friends from all over the world. In fact, I have some good friends from Ireland. And one of them, my buddy Joey, I actually wrote him in as a character in Queen of Scorn. He's the Raven King.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I got the idea for the character just from getting to know him better. And so that character was a lot of fun to write. And you're going to see a lot more of him in the new book.
All right, I'll look forward to that. I it's been a little while since I've read the book, and if you didn't mention that, I probably wouldn't have remembered that character. But as soon as you said, I'm like, okay, I remember that guy a little bit now.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, that's based on my buddy Joey.
Oh, well, that's cool. You have a favorite whiskey?
Yeah, George Dickel. Yeah, that is the one.
I've not heard of that. So,
Oh, it's good. It's
uh,
it's tasty.
all right, I'll have to take a look. My dad is going to retire later this year, and he's big on like Canadian whiskey, and
Ah,
so I
okay.
thought, I'll have to see if I can find him a nice bottle of whiskey to celebrate his retirement. So
Yeah, Angel's Envy is another good one.
I think I've seen that pop up here a few times. I typically
Mhm.
just stick to beer myself, otherwise I'll
Yeah.
get in trouble. But
Fair enough.
Einar, how dark is Einar's story going to get? Because
Uh,
he
oh boy.
I feel like he got pretty dark here in Queen of Scorn, and man, I really didn't I didn't like where he was going with things. He was brutal. He was pretty cutthroat.
Yeah, so the theme of Einar in the new book is he's struggling with what he needs to do versus his conscience, his morality. He's always been like the noble savage. He's been the moral compass of the Northmen, and he is going to be really wrestling with what he had to do in Queen of Scorn for sure.
Well, I think that'll be good to see him have some conflict within himself then on that,
Hmm.
because it was difficult to read what he went through, the choices that he made. So I was wondering if he would feel any remorse or anything. So
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's been on a rough journey since the Wrathbringer. He's been through a lot. The gods have subjected him to quite a bit. So he's definitely going to be wrestling with that, wrestling with his faith. Trying to find his center again.
Okay, well, I will definitely look forward to that then, because I don't know if I wonder if he'll get. I don't even know that redemption is the right word, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure the word that I'm looking for, but
Hmm.
um, I'm sure maybe forgiveness. Maybe he's going to be looking for some forgiveness. Then I don't know. Maybe that would be a good way to put it. But another like I've noticed all the groups, different groups of people in in this series, they all seem to be generally pretty awful, except for like Alexius and his people.
Hmm.
Um, they seem, I guess, well, like when I read them, I kind of got a sense of they're like maybe inspired by Romans, something like that. Um, they seem to be pretty generally good. And is that the case, or have we just not seen their bad side yet?
Everybody has their own degree of awfulness, I guess you could say. I mean, it's a hard world. It's a tough world. The one thing I've always tried to maintain, though, even with all these groups, is um, they're not being awful just for the sake of being awful. There's always a purpose behind it, and they may feel like they're in the right, um, but yeah, everybody has their own motivations, and I try to never lose sight of that, and just write something awful just for shock value or whatever. They're always like, I always want there to be a purpose behind everything. It's a dark world, but the one thing that really drives every group, and this is something that John Douglas had reflected on a long time ago, and I've always remembered it. He said everybody ultimately is driven by hope. What that hope ultimately is, whether it's just surviving to get home, or if it's or whatever. Everybody, in some way, their motivation is driven by hope.
I could see that you say that, and it makes me think of Udorn, and I was thinking it it seemed like desperation where he kills the little noble
Hmm.
girl, but like you said, there's hope. He wants to survive, and it, I feel like, and you can maybe tell me differently, but they seem almost like Viking esque, but also like Spartans, where like come home on your shield or don't come home at all type deal.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's a good way to describe it.
and he is different, appears to be different than a lot of his fellow people because like he wants to see his kids grow up, and I'm sure the other people do too, but like they're
Mhm.
more concerned with like the glorious death and that type of thing. And he's like, well, sure, but I could just watch my kids grow up instead and live good lives.
Well, he does wrestle with that. Obviously he wants to go home and see his family again, but then he also knows that there's glory in battle and glory in death, and he still wants to um, uh, honor that part of his culture. So he kind of has this internal conflict between going out in a blaze of glory and then living to see his children surpass him. And there's going to be more of that in the next book too. He's going to be grappling with more of that inner conflict of his.
It was, I mean, it was quite the interesting story, and I think Andres pointed it out to me, but he was introduced at the end of the second book in the
Yes.
epilogue, correct? Okay,
Yep.
I didn't remember that at the time, and I'm like, well, where's this guy coming from? Uh, but I was there for the ride, and I won't say there's too many moments in books where I read something and I'm like, damn, that was harsh. But he had one of them where I was like, damn, that was brutal, just killing that kid.
Yeah,
uh,
that in the torture scene with Dueled, where he gets literally torn piece by piece. That one was that one was a little brutal.
Yeah, it was like, how is it like writing that stuff? I mean, is that something where you're just kind of in the zone and you're just like pounding out the words, or is that you got to take a little more time with something like that?
Uh, I would say scenes like that come pretty easy. Uh, don't judge me any which way because of
No,
that.
not at
But
all.
I actually try to tone it down too because I don't want to be just over the top brutal. So I try to walk a fine line between making you feel something when you read it, whether it's disgust or just or whatever. So I try to walk a very fine line between making you feel something and then making you just want to put the book down and never touch it again. So I do dial the violence back quite a bit.
Which I mean, like you said, it's a hard world. It is brutal, and I'm curious what this would look like if you didn't dial it back. Uh, but maybe that's just me. I mean, like I've said other times when I read things, it's I want to escape, and and sometimes it's going to those dark places, and it kind of
Yeah.
makes me realize, okay, like, well, whatever I have going on isn't really that bad. Look what this dude's up to, or what happened to him. So uh,
Mhm.
I don't, I'm not, I'm definitely not opposed to those moments, but sometimes it's just they're surprising at times in the best way. So
Yeah, I try to keep the over like the really over the top violent scenes. I try to keep those in like short periodic bursts, so it really lands with a lot of impact. Because to me, if a book is just cover to cover, blood and guts, it really loses its potency. So I try to keep my like really violent battle scenes or torture scenes or death scenes, whatever. I try to keep it, pretty contained, condensed, and it just hits you really quick, and then the story moves on.
I think it works well because I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are drawn to those moments. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, if that was the whole thing, that would be tough. You need those other moments where I guess it's not that to appreciate those other moments. Maybe appreciate's not the right word either, but to get through those tough moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you need highs, you need lows, you need action, and then you need time sometimes to catch your breath. Because if it's just too fast paced, it just I can see people kind of checking out from that. So like the slow parts of my book, that's for you to kind of mentally catch your breath and just get prepared for the next plunge.
The next drop, yeah, like a
Yep.
roller
Yep.
coaster ride for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Um, I don't I don't remember how I felt reading the other two books, and maybe it was different just because this one was so recent. But in Queen of Scorn, I really loved all the female characters. They were to me they were the best parts of the whole book. They were just all so good. And Lucetta's been one of my favorite characters as far as I can remember, and I'm very curious to see what's going to unravel with her story. And I know I messaged you back and forth a little bit as I was reading. I don't remember a lot of the specifics right now, but I know I had some sort of like thoughts. Like I feel like maybe there's some sort of weird timeline with her and Madeline, where I can't help but wonder, like, I don't want to say time travel, but like if if Madeline is somehow the dark shadow for Lucetta. And I don't know how much you can speak to any of this, or you just say, "Oh, it's a nice theory" or whatever. But
That's a nice theory. Yeah, no,
but
I,
just
I, I really, I really can't speak too much as to what all that is, but you will find out. You will find out more. There will be a very satisfying uh, storyline for her in the next book. Like what I love is just with each book, she just organically, as I write her, just becomes more and more unhinged, and she's probably my favorite character to write, just because with her there are no limits. Like she can be as crazy as she needs to be, you know.
yeah, and I'm sure other people that have read this have felt the same way because we get introduced to this shadow, and you're like, okay, well, it's obviously like an illusion or it's in her mind. But then there's a lot of other times you're like, oh, it's very clearly not. So it's just like this mystery of what the hell is happening, and there was a few moments like we get this like scene with like this hanging of her, right? And I'm like,
Hmm.
and there was something that you wrote. I don't remember the wording, but it made me think of Madeline, and it had something to do with the hair. And it could be nothing, but I felt like they were described similarly, and that's kind of what drew me to that
Mm.
possibility. So
It's an interesting theory.
I guess that's all it is for now.
But
But
what I
that's
love about her character is how divisive she is. I mean, some people absolutely love her, and some people just cannot stand her, and that's exactly what I was going for.
I love her. I love the your word unhinged. I love it
Mm.
because it just makes me question reality and uh,
Good.
yeah. I feel like I'm onto something with her, and I'm just gonna have to read and find out eventually when I can. So,
It's the only one way to
um,
find out.
yeah, Sylvia was another one. I mean, her story. I remember her in like the second book. We had her some, but getting her to be like our eyes on Damien was very interesting. Just to see her by his side and just to show how I guess like mortal he is too. Because
Hmm.
the first couple books he's kind of made out to look like this all imposing badass, which he is. But then in this book, we see him hurting and that he's just as human as everybody else. And
Hmm.
it I don't want to say a softer side, but kind of um, just that reality. Like, well, he could die too. But his them climbing the mountain, uh, fighting Cugboard, was that the
Yep.
name?
Yep.
Getting the sword, like that was all really cool. Like I wasn't expecting him to come alive, uh,
Hmm.
but that was all really cool stuff, and just her being the eyes for all of it was really enjoyable.
Yeah, and having her there, Damien felt more comfortable with explaining more of why he's doing what he's doing because a lot of readers see Damien as a villain. So I wanted to bring more of that story out. I mean, you see it in Servitor of Sin, you see the origin, um, and then in Queen of Scorn, you got to hear a bit more about what actually happened, and you hear about how his family was massacred. So hopefully, in a lot of readers' eyes, that kind of skews Damien more towards the neutral end instead of being like purely a villain. And yeah, he's like the main character of the series, I would say. But you will never see a POV from him. He is always seen through the eyes of others, and that's very much intentional because I don't want you to know what's going on in his head. I don't want you to know what he's planning or whatever. So you will not see a Damien uh, point of view chapter in the series.
I like that. It's worked really well so far, and I agree. Like he definitely did seem like the villain, but less so in this book. Um, like I said, just with what we learn about him, he seems more kind of, I guess, morally gray, right? Like
Hmm.
he's he's doing what he's thinks he needs to do for his people and everything.
Right.
Um, and so it was fun to get that perspective of things. Um, I also really enjoyed just the. I feel like the world opened up a lot in Queen.
Oh, for
Just
sure.
like the time scale. Like we find out, oh, okay, well, like things are a lot older than we thought, and I thought that was really cool. That was a lot of fun to
Hmm.
to read all that.
Yeah, yeah, and in the next book, the world is going to open up a bit more too. But at some point, I have to start bringing it all together again. But yeah, you're going to get more world building in the next book, and more expansion of the world. The world's going to feel even bigger.
I feel like we've seen people from kind of every corner of the
Hmm.
continents.
Yep.
Um, Okay, I wasn't sure if there was something else there, but um,
There could always be another group of people lurking around somewhere, but the major players, the major factions on the continent, yeah, you've seen them all now.
cool. Uh, yeah. So I guess I kind of ran through all the questions that I had here. I didn't realize that I got through them all already, but um,
Yeah, the past
what
hour's kind of flown here.
it has. So you'd say Lucetta was your favorite character to write. Um, does that mean she's your favorite character though?
Ooh, that's a good question. The answer to that is I kind of go back and forth on who's my favorite, kind of depending on where I'm at in my life. Each character has a little piece of me in it that I identify with. So there are times when, depending on what season of my life I'm in, where I identify more with this character or that character or whatever. Um, I would say, I would say she. Oh man, it's such a toss up between her and Titan. I really love writing Titan. He's unfiltered. He's just a man that's seen too much, and but at the end of the day, he still feels something. Like he feels this obligation to protect Madeline because he could never protect any of his other friends. They all died. So he figures he might be able to find redemption if he can just save one person that means something to him. So that quest for like uh self redemption, that's that I really enjoy writing that.
He didn't seem to have too big of a role in this book compared
Mm,
to the Wrathbringer, but I mean, I guess maybe that's just kind of natural based on the focus that we had for this book. But
right,
um,
yeah. And each book is going to have a different character on it, and they're going to kind of be the main focus of that book. So yeah, Titan kind of did take a step back in this one, but still an important character. But he's gonna come to the forefront a little bit more in the next book, for sure. So you'll get to see a little more action out of him.
cool. I guess we didn't even really talk about Madeline too much
Mm.
um, with this, but she's. I mean, I don't know. I'm not too sure what to say about her right now, but yeah.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun to write too, and I really appreciate comments that like John Douglas has made, where he said that Madeline is like to him one of the best written female fantasy characters like ever. Which I don't know if I'm worthy of that, but I've definitely tried to do her justice. Especially my female characters. I mean, they're not the easiest to write, but I really do put a lot of care into making them feel real. And Madeline, she has the strong outer presence, but if you really see it in Queen of Scorn, she is grappling with so many inner demons. She's struggling with an identity crisis. She's
Yeah.
wrapped up in revenge, ambition, all these things. Just like mindlessly focused on the quest. At the expense of everything else, at the expense of everyone that cares about her, and she's wrestling with that. But now, because she's made a deal with a particularly unsavory god, she's fighting that struggle now too. So I always write my characters with a lot of layers. So there's always a conflict on like a grand scheme. Obviously, the war. Then there's conflicts between them and other people, interpersonal conflicts, and then they have to deal with the conflicts inside their head, which could be any number of things at the same time. So adding these layers of conflict in people, that's what I feel like really makes them feel real. And I do take particular care when I write my female characters, because I want to do them justice, right? Because like a lot of male authors can't write female characters and vice versa. So I don't want to fall into that kind of stigma. So I really put a lot of care into them.
I've not really thought about it until you said it, but I think I can recognize it now. Like you're talking about the layers.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense, and I can see that now, and I really like that and appreciate that. I think that's really cool. I will say I think all your characters feel very real. Um, for how brutal of a world it is, they feel appropriate. It's not, you've got this horrible world that they're in, but it's not like you have this. There's not some super virtuous dude that doesn't seem to make sense or fit or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Everybody's
Everybody,
got some kind of blood on their hands. That's just the world
yeah,
that they live in.
yeah. Very excited to see where the story goes. So um, I'm sure there's probably more questions I could come up with, but I've drawn a little bit of a blank right now. Anything else
Well,
you would like to
that means
say?
you'll just
You
have
would
to
like
have
to
me
talk
back
about?
again when you can think of more questions.
We can do that. I was kind of bummed that Andres wasn't able to make it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm sure he would have had some good questions too, and that would have been fun. But maybe we can do that another time.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, more than happy to do this again.
Cool. Well, any other thoughts that you have at all?
Uh, well, I wanna assure everyone it won't be 2.5 years before you get the next book. I will get this one done a lot faster.
Well, I know. Hey, take the time it needs to take. I'd
Right.
rather
Right.
that than it's something rushed. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
I think I kind of got my formula figured out now, so it's actually coming a lot easier this time on this book. So it won't be 2.5 years, but you know, who knows?
well, I will be excited to find out the title whenever that is.
Mhm.
See the cover whenever that is, and then when I can buy the book, I'll be reading that as soon as it comes out. It'll break the TBR again. So
Much appreciated. Thank you.
yeah. Well, everybody, if you haven't, go out, buy all three of these books, five of them, I guess, with the two novellas. Get them all. They're a lot of fun to read, really well written. And Chris, you're a pretty sweet dude. So thanks for coming on. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time here. And yeah, we'll definitely do this again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of fun as always.
All right. Well, hey, enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a good week coming up here.
You too, man. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Ooh.